They say winter has a way of taking more than warmth. For some, it takes memories. For others, it takes everything. Ethan Cole had once loved the snow. He used to call it the Earth's way of breathing in peace. But that was before it took his wife. 3 years ago, on a frozen road outside of Fairbanks, Alaska, Ethan and his wife, Clara, were driving home from town. The sky was falling in heavy sheets of white, and laughter filled their old truck. They were talking about the baby room, painting it yellow the way Clara wanted. She always said yellow felt like sunlight that refused to give up. Then in one heartbeat the world went silent. A flash of light, the shriek of metal, and just like that the snow took her. Ethan survived. Clara didn't. Since that night, the cabin he built for her became a tomb of memories. He stopped answering calls, stopped visiting town. He lived with ghosts, her perfume still on the dresser, her coat still hanging by the door. Even her mug, chipped and stained, still sat by the window. Every winter he watched the snow fall again, like a cruel reminder that beauty could kill. Pause. Sound of wind grows louder. But this winter was different, because this was the winter someone knocked. It was the third night of a blizzard, the kind that swallowed sound. Ethan was nursing a fire that refused to live. He sat in silence, wrapped in Clara's old blanket. When he heard it, 3 soft knocks at the door. At first, he thought it was the wind. But then, again, 3 deliberate knocks. He frowned, grabbed the lantern, and trudged to the door. When he opened it, the wind almost threw him back. But there, standing in the storm, was a girl. She couldn't have been more than 20. Her dark hair was braided with beads, her eyes bright despite the storm. She was wrapped in furs, her cheeks red from the cold. "Please," she said, her voice trembling. "My car, it's stuck down the hill. I've been walking for hours." Ethan hesitated. He hadn't spoken to anyone in days, maybe weeks. But something in her voice, something raw, something human, broke through the wall around him. He stepped aside. "Come in." She did, and with her came the smell of pine and smoke. Something alive, something wild. She warmed her hands by the fire, whispering quiet thanks. Ethan watched her silently. She looked like she didn't belong in this world of grief and frozen hearts. "What's your name?" he finally asked. "Winona," she said. "It means firstborn daughter in my tribe." "Tribe?" "The Atna," she said softly, smiling faintly. "We live not far from here, near the Copper River. My grandmother says the spirits protect this valley. If we remember them—" Ethan gave a small nod, trying not to sound skeptical. "Spirits don't visit much around here." Winona looked up at him. Maybe not, but sometimes they send someone in their place. There was something in her gaze, something deep and knowing, that unsettled him. They sat in silence for a while, the fire crackling between them. Winona told him her car had broken down on the old road that led to the highway. She had set out for help, but lost her bearings in the snow. Ethan gave her food, a blanket, and a cot by the fire. But when he turned to go upstairs, she said something that made him freeze. "You miss her." He turned slowly. "What?" "The woman in the photograph by the stairs," Winona said softly. "You still look at her like she might walk in any second." Ethan didn't answer. He couldn't. Winona smiled sadly. "My grandmother says grief is like snow. It doesn't melt until you learn to stand in it without freezing." He wanted to tell her to stop, to leave him with his ghosts. But before he could speak, she whispered, "You're not alone. Ethan, the world still has fire, even in winter." That night he lay awake, listening to the wind, to her quiet breathing near the fire. For the first time in 3 years, the cabin didn't feel empty. Soft instrumental rises, hopeful tone. When dawn came, the storm had passed. Winona stood outside, helping clear the path to her car. She moved with purpose, graceful, steady, like someone who belonged to the land itself. Ethan found himself smiling, just a little, the kind of smile that feels like remembering how to live. As she prepared to leave, she turned to him and said, "I'll come back tomorrow. The road still won't be clear. Besides," she looked at him, "I think the mountain still wants you to talk." He laughed, a dry, unused sound. "Talk to what? The snow?" "To her," she said softly, "and to yourself." Then she walked away. it disappearing into the morning mist like a whisper from another world. Ethan watched until she was gone. For the first time since Clara's death, he didn't turn away from the window. He stood there, eyes fixed on the horizon, as the wind carried her footprints across the snow, and somewhere deep inside, something small and frozen began to move again. Music fades, soft narrator voice returns. If you're still listening, remember this. Sometimes life doesn't end where we think it does. Sometimes it just waits behind a knock on the door.